This man murdered his own brother, his sister's fiancé, and two friends, all inside his home, then casually went out to buy cigarettes like nothing happened. No remorse, no panic, just 4 dead bodies and a cold-blooded killer who didn't even try to hide it. And decades later, after fighting the death penalty for years, his execution finally arrived. But what he said just before death will send chills down your spine. Welcome to Death Row Diaries. If you're into true crime, hit that subscribe button because we upload every week. All right, let's go back to Fort Wayne, Indiana. It all started in a house on Bear Avenue, a house that would become a crime scene. July 26, 1997, a casual evening. His brother James, his sister's fiancé Alejandro, aka Alex Ramirez, and 2 friends, Christopher O'Banion and Robert Turner, were just hanging out in the living room, chilling, laughing, talking about weekend plans. Meanwhile, Joseph Corcoran, upstairs, was pacing, silent, angry, paranoid, convinced they were talking about him, plotting against him, making fun of him. At least, that's what he believed. Then, boom! First shotgun blast. He walks downstairs, holding a sawed-off shotgun. No argument, no warning. He shoots 2 men in the head, instantly killing them. The next 2 try to run. They don't make it far. He shoots all 4, calmly, one by one. Then he grabs his keys, leaves the house, walks to a nearby gas station and buys a pack of cigarettes like nothing happened. When police arrive, the house looks like a war zone. Multiple headshots, blood everywhere, execution style. This wasn't rage. This was precision. And Joseph? When arrested, he said something absolutely chilling. They were talking about me. They deserved it. That's when police realized this wasn't just a murder. This was an unraveling mind. Joseph was not born a monster, but life sculpted him into one. Born April 18, 1975 in Indiana, he grew up in a home filled with abuse and chaos. His father was extremely violent. He feared him so much he slept with a baseball bat. But there was more. When Joseph was still young, his father died in a tragic accident, falling through a glass door and bleeding to death. Joseph saw the aftermath. It shattered him. And something inside his mind changed. He developed severe paranoia, isolation, mood swings, classic signs of untreated schizophrenia, although he was never clinically treated in time. But the real break, in 1994, his older brother was murdered, shot to death in a robbery. Joseph was convinced he would avenge him, but instead of seeking justice, his trauma mutated into hate. He started believing that everyone was against him, even those who loved him, especially family. And so, his home slowly became the most dangerous place he could be. In 1998, he faced trial for 4 counts of murder, and prosecutors were calling for the death penalty. Their argument was simple. This wasn't temporary insanity. This wasn't an accident. He executed 4 people, and he planned it. But the defense fought hard, claiming he was mentally ill, paranoid, and deeply traumatized. They argued he didn't even understand reality, so how could he fully understand the consequences of his actions? Psychiatric experts testified that he heard voices, believed people plotted against him, and had severe schizophrenia. Guess what Joseph said during an interview? "If they let me out, I'd kill again." That quote was devastating for the defense. After less than 2 hours of deliberation, the jury returned guilty, sentenced to death. But the story didn't end there, not even close. From 1998 to 2023, he spent over 20 years on Indiana's death row. He appealed over and over, claiming his mental illness should have spared him from execution. He said police coerced his confession. He said the trial was unfair. He said the death penalty should be off the table due to his schizophrenia. His lawyers argued if this man had been properly treated as a child, 4 people would still be alive today. But courts rejected every appeal. In 2024, the date was set. December 18th, 2024. The state of Indiana said, enough. In death row interviews, something strange happened. Joseph became calm, polite, almost peaceful. He spent his final week reading, barely talked, didn't show fear about dying. A guard even said he looked relieved, like he'd been waiting for this moment. He refused to see a spiritual advisor. He denied a family visit. He didn't want forgiveness. He didn't want pity. But there was one thing he requested, his last meal. And this is where things got unsettling.
Unlike many inmates who order elaborate final meals, Joseph requested just a cheeseburger and fries. No dessert, no drinks. Simple. Almost childlike. And when asked why, he said, "I ate this with my brother when we were kids." That was the only time interviewers saw emotion in his eyes. Not guilt, not remorse, just a memory. December 18th, 2024, Indiana State Prison. At 6 p.m., witnesses gathered behind the glass. He walked in calmly and laid himself on the gurney without resisting. At 6:08 p.m., the first drug entered his system. He remained calm. No tears, no fight. Then the warden asked the question, "Do you have any final words?" He nodded and spoke softly. "I hope they find peace." I never did. He closed his eyes. At 6:24 p.m., he was pronounced dead. This case still divides experts. Was he evil? Or was he failed by the system long before he picked up that shotgun? Some say he was a cold-blooded killer who deserved everything he got. Others say his execution was the system killing a mentally ill man instead of saving him years earlier. One thing is certain. 4 people died. Families were destroyed. And trauma created yet another tragedy. So what do you think? Was Joseph Edward Corcoran a product of violence and untreated trauma? Or was he simply a danger to society that had to be stopped? Let me know in the comments. We read every single one. This is Death Row Diaries. Subscribe if you want more stories just like this. And remember, sometimes the deadliest place in the world is your own home.